well. We're joined now by James Shuls from the Show Me Institute. James, how are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty well. I promise no F-bombs.
No, please. Thank you very much. Yeah, we appreciate that. Scaramouche took care of enough of that. I've got my own drop I love to play about him now.
Scaramouche, will you do the fandango?
And because he's not in the White House anymore, I have to use any excuse to play that drop because he's disappeared from the scene, right?
It takes away all your material.
That's right. I've been doing interviews with the Show Me Institute for a long time now, and I know that education and how we fund education and how we can improve education have long been the focus of what you guys study over there. Charter schools have been part of that.
Right, absolutely. Right? At the Show Me Institute, we believe that parents should be able to choose. They should be able to direct the upbringing of their children, and that includes sending their kids to the school of their choice. The current model that we have says, you live here, you must go there. And we think that's a fundamentally flawed model. And so charter schools change that dynamic. They allow parents to choose the school that they're going to go to and be able to choose the school that's going to meet their needs. And so we think that charter schools are a very good school choice option for families.
Are they as independent as they need to be? Like, personally, I'm a big fan of vouchers for the same reason that if you're not getting a good value for your money here, you ought to be able to take the cash you would have paid for that and transfer it somewhere else.
Yeah, there is a question, especially among conservatives, as to whether or not charter schools are really independent. I mean, they still have to answer to the state. They still have to administer state exams. So they do have those requirements. But what they are is they are much more attuned to the needs of the family. So charter schools will typically have a certain model or mission in mind. So here in St. Louis, we have a school that's designed around the arts. We have schools designed around mathematics and science. And so you get a school that's really unique, and parents get to choose those schools. And I think that, in and of itself, choice changes the dynamic. So no longer are parents just the annoying people that come into bother teachers. I'm a former teacher, so I can say that, by the way. Now parents are really the consumers that you have to try to attract them to your school, and so they answer to the parents and they answer to the consumers much more. And so I think charter schools, they may not be as free as our private schools are, but they're a great option for parents.
Because they still have to be chartered, though, by the local district, don't they? Don't they have to be approved by the local district?
They don't have to be approved in Missouri by the local district. They can be.
Okay.
But so right now, that's actually a good thing to bring up. In Missouri, they can open in St. Louis and Kansas City without the district's approval. They have to be approved by a university or the Missouri Charter School Commission.
Okay.
Throughout the rest of the state, so if you want to open in Wentzville, where I live, you have to be approved by the district. And as you'll note, we have no charter schools anywhere in the state other than St. Louis and Kansas City where they don't have to get district approval.
Right. But there are still those who challenge charter schools, right? Because particularly from the public school system power hierarchy of the unions and all that, it represents a threat, just like vouchers might, because those people aren't part of the union, correct?
It changes the dynamic completely. That no longer are students just assigned to a school and we expect them to go there. Now they have a choice, and many of them are choosing. Here in St. Louis, I think we're among the top 10 in the country in terms of percentage of students going to charter schools. I think it's over 30% of our public school students are in charter schools. And as you said, many of those charter schools are not unionized. And so it does drain the union resources. And so they are scared about it. As I shared with you in an email, recently the NAACP came out and said we need a moratorium on charter schools. So we see from all kinds of sides this argument that we need to stop charter schools because whatever reason, and I think that's fundamentally flawed. I think that charter schools are great, and the reason that they're growing is because people are choosing them.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm all for that. Now that we've got, maybe you haven't studied this specifically recently, but now that we have a super majority in the legislature of Missouri, and we have a Republican governor, do you foresee a day when we could potentially move toward a voucher system in Missouri or not?
The amazing thing in Missouri politics, this isn't just Missouri politics, but it's politics in general, is that school choice isn't a left-right Republican Democrat issue. School choice oftentimes pits urban social justice Democrats and sort of libertarian free market conservatives versus the traditional union Democrats and the rural Republicans. So a lot of the opposition we see to school choice in Missouri isn't from the Democrats. We see some, but we also see some from rural Republicans who don't really see the upside in school choice. You think about many of these rural communities, the superintendent's oftentimes the highest paid person in the community. The school district's the largest employer, and they don't see a whole lot of benefit in terms politically for voting for a school choice plan. So with that said, I do think we're going to see a strong push in the upcoming legislative session for vouchers. We saw one, or some sort of private school choice. We saw that last year, and I'm sure we're going to see it again.
We've already decided that the decision the Supreme Court made on our school in mid-Missouri, about whether the grants for playground covering could go to them, because I was already told that was a very narrow decision and would not be something that would open the door to public monies being spent on private schools.
So that's the Trinity Lutheran case. And we had they applied for scrap tires and were denied because they were a religious institution. And the Supreme Court says you can't do that. Now, the question was, does this apply to private school choice programs? And we're not real clear yet on how narrow that definition is going to be, or that decision is going to be. It could impact school choice, but I'll say this. If we pass a private school choice program in Missouri, I don't care. It's going to be challenged. And it's going
to court somewhere, right?
Right, absolutely. It's going to be challenged because that's what opposition does. And I think depending on the program, how we structure it, we have a very good chance of being constitutional in Missouri.
Interesting. Back to my reason for saying that, Republican governor, Republican legislature, even if it's not completely a partisan issue, the way those two parties are going to vote or bring it up for a vote down there is likely to make it a partisan issue, right?
Well, leadership matters. When Nixon was in office, he vetoed 2 small voucher bills that would have impacted students in Normandy and Riverview Gardens. So there's clearly a leadership issue saying I'm not going to sign
under any circumstance.
Right. And Greitens has come in and said he is very much supportive. And so we did see a much stronger push this past year for a private school choice program. It made it further than it's ever made it before. And I think we're going to continue to see that movement grow.
All right. Dr. James Shuls, thank you for your time.
It's always great to be with you.
Appreciate that. I love talking to you about education issues.
No F-bombs either.
Fantastic. You could be the next White House communications director. What do you think? We're gonna promote him for that. I told somebody some they don't pay nearly enough. I could never imagine taking that job right now.
That's right.
Yeah. Let Sarah Huckabee Sanders have it. Keep going. All right.